This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You know, some people say that Odoo business management software is like fertilizer, the way it promotes growth and all. But other people say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. And there's some people who would even say Odoo's individual software programs come together to build the perfect suite like building blocks. Well, Odoo is all of these things. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. So sign up now at odoo.com, ODOO.com.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Leesa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Leesa. Go to Leesa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code iHeart. That's LEESA.com. Promo code iHeart for an extra $50 off.
What are you trying to insinuate?
Come on! Oh, good.
It just drives me absolutely batty.
That's the mantra of a producer. What you just heard from Pete Bursich. It drives me just absolutely batty when I see the host of the radio show sitting in the chair, the bunk music's playing, he has the set list in his hand, and he's not talking. That just drives me absolutely batty.
It just drives me absolutely batty.
Welcome back, the Con.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. All righty. Welcome. Let's get after it. The Hal has 10 to go and still very much is alive to jettison the diseased play-in and finagle its way to hopefully a future playoff pairing with the Denver Nuggets, who can't beat Finchy. Who knew? The Nuggets can't beat Finchy. Now, we hook Indiana tonight in the alleged cradle of basketball. And last time we hooked up with these guys, stuff like this happened.
8.5 seconds left. One stop. It has 8 in overtime. Got 38 for the game. Here's McConnell. Inside the arc. Pivots around. 12 seconds left to play in the game. McConnell to the right side of the floor. TJ on the drive, baseline all the way through left wing to the corner top and fades on a three and hits it! Oh my goodness, falling out of bounds in the corner opposite the Pacer bench. He rattles in a three, his fourth in overtime. He puts the Pacers up 132 to 130.
Anybody happen to remember how the game in the alleged, in the state of Indiana, the alleged cradle of basketball, the alleged state of basketball, anybody happen to remember how the Timberwolves-Pacers game finished last year in that state? Think about it for a second. Think about it for a second.
Oh, you're killing me right now.
I believe the player for the Pacers, thinking he was going to win the game, is something called Aaron Nesmith, and he's going to go up for a dunk or a layup. Here comes Anthony Edwards surging out of nowhere to block the shot and win the game. Anthony Edwards, let's go.
We need one of those tonight.
We need about 5 of those tonight.
Yes.
Just 10 to go. Get out of that disease play-in. That's part of a cool night, which leads into a cool week of local and national sports. Because, meanwhile, these guys are red hot.
Zuccarello to the loose puck. He'll carry along a few strides, feeding Boldy. Boldy weaving past the check. Darts in, Boldy right circle. Spun up, left it back. Zuccarello scores! Oh, Boldy set him up, and Zuccarello lays it high low in 3-0.
All hail Zuki. This squad's red hot, winners of 3 consecutive. Now, 897 miles southwest of Indianapolis, where we are hailing the Hal, well, that's Dallas, Texas. The hockey team will look to continue its surge north in the standings, but it's the Stars. We like to qualify games like tonight as acid tests for class. We've won 3 in a row after that Blues debacle. It's the Dallas Stars, man, and we're on a 3-game heater. The Wild R is 1-1 versus Dem Stars this year. The loss being of the Big D variety. 2 seasons before that, those Stars ran up a 9-2-2 record on the Minnesota Wild.
Are they rubes? Because I don't cotton to rubes.
Oh, they're Rubians.
They're Rubians is what they are. They beat us 4-2 in that playoff series 2 years ago. Ended up being effortless, too. The final 2, they spanked us by a combined 8-1 score. The Stars are 2-3 their last 5, have gone to overtime 3 in a row, and have 92 points. Second most in the West. And will most likely hook Lakeville native Jake Ottinger. That's the goaltender. And he's a handful if you're having problems scoring. Now, that one is at 7 on KFAN tonight. And a Wild beat writer for The Athletic, Joe Smith, gives us a proper preview about an hour from now. Wild and Stars tonight with 12 to go. Now, from the world of football and speculation associated with said gridiron, Aaron Rodgers spent like 6 hours with the Steelers and left sans a deal, which means Tomlin's team is chasing after the wind, at least for now. Might actually catch the wind. Catching the wind is very hard. Jameis signed with the Giants. The Vikings have no backup quarterback, at least from a veteran standpoint. And on we head to a week of play 9 to noon. Paul Allen, Nordo by my side. Our sports worlds are rich, compelling, and bountiful right now. Things are rich, compelling, and bountiful locally and nationally right now. The Gophers hockey team starts the Frozen Four this week. We got a Thursday puck drop. Coach Bob Motzko joins 9 to noon tomorrow. In fact, about close to 24 hours from now. Parker Fox, main man Parker Fox, he stops by today to handle the NCAA tournament and some NBA. Now, the NCAA tournament is down to the Sweet 16. We have a very special guest joining us today. Producer Parker has a working cell phone number for this guy.
Now it's Broom, just inside the arc right. Spin the face on Ocon, crosses him over, given the isolation. Backs him in, drops the shoulder, up, in, and a foul. Chance at an and one, and it's a double-double for the SEC Player of the Year.
Janai Broom is the name, SEC Player of the Year, and dominating college basketball is the game. How? Janai Broom joins 9 to noon today at 11 o'clock for multiple reasons. One, somehow he gave Parker Fox his phone number. Secondly, he plays for maybe the very best college basketball team in the country, and he happens to be the best player on the best team in the country. Janai Broom blocks a bunch of shots, scores a bunch of points. And thirdly, as we've mentioned before, Auburn's Janai Broom and his father are bona fide and tried and true Minnesota Vikings fans. They listen to games on the radio. They watch games from afar. Janai Broom at 11 o'clock today, Mr. Nordo, and good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, excited to talk to him. Now, in some ways, you know, the cool thing about producer Parker in this respect, I mean, he's got some numbers in that phone book. Now, we're not going to steal his phone, but the ability to chat with Janai Broom is pretty sweet.
The best chance this radio show's ever had to, get college basketball thoughts from Mike Krzyzewski. Maybe in a phone arriving here about 2 hours from now.
Our chances have never been better. I was rooting, and it's not as if I'm anti-Michigan, for instance, for any reason, but I was rooting for Texas A&M because then maybe we could have Pharrell Payne on, and we could have a full Sweet 16 of talkers.
Yes.
Dude went down to Texas, still couldn't escape the Big Ten, and the Wolverines move on to the next weekend. But
they get Janai
Broom. So it's Parker, the producer, helping us out, not only to hang out and chat hoops at 11, but I'm excited to hear Janai Broom. Still wondering what the connection is that leads him down the road of being the ardent Vikes fan that he is. So that's gonna be a sweet conversation at 11.
I mean, you have Andy Katz. You have Seth Davis, and you have Jay Billis, all seeking the Monday services of one Janai Broom, and he ends up on 9 to noon.
I always love that one.
So somewhere during the course of the conversation, I'm really hoping that if he's a Vikings fan, then he must be negative on the Detroit Lions. I mean, and we've discussed this before, truly, how negative can one be on the Lions when in 2008, they had a winless season. Up until recently, they've just been the bottom feeder of all bottom feeders in the National Football League. So, truly, how can one have vitriol towards that? At least I don't, but it is the target at which to shoot in our favorite division. But with Janai Broom, Auburn Tigers' finest, the damage my man can do, he can represent if vengeance is a thing with him for the Minnesota Vikings. He can handle college basketball's prominent state of Michigan Friday and Sunday. I mean, if Michigan State wins, who do they play? Ole Miss? Mississippi State, something like that?
Michigan State plays Ole Miss, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Izzo.
I believe after Auburn beats Michigan, then potentially gets 25 with an Izzo and nowhere to Gizzo. He knows. I mean, you can beat Ann Arbor and East Lansing in the course of 2 days and change and get the backs of the Minnesota Vikings, who are frustrated by losing those games to the Lions. That is Janai Broom's lot in life, but you got to start with Michigan, and that game's coming up Friday.
You know, the great part about that, you're going to have the Seth Davis types and the Jay Billis types. You mentioned it, and they're like, well, okay, I guess busy week, limited media opportunities. I guess he's joining this regional sports show in Minneapolis.
Right.
Are you going to ask him about tough times against the Birds, the Blue Jays the other day? You're going to ask him, it was a tough shooting night, couldn't find your shot, but man, the boards and late moments and pushing back and really just quality taking over. And Jay Billis is going to tune in, and you're asking him how his dad became a Vikings fan.
Yeah. How great is it? Well, because if he wins them both, I mean, I got to believe, if people believe in luck, if Janai Broom believes in luck and karma, then maybe next Monday, as they head into the to the next portion of the equation, how great was it getting the backs of the Minnesota Vikings, who had troubles against the Detroit Lions, and all you did is go out there and beat Michigan Wolverines and Michigan State Spartans. Hey, Janai Broom and his dad. Janai Broom.
Yeah, that's sweet.
11 o'clock, 9 to noon. Thank you very much, Parker Fox. All right, not exactly how this made the equation, but when I was writing this weekend, I was looking at some National Football League transactions just to see who went where and why. The quarterback goes to Pittsburgh, spends 6 or 7 hours there on Friday, leaves without a deal. Not super surprising. Also, it's about a 90%er. Aaron Rodgers will play for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. It just will be on Aaron Rodgers' timeline. And the Steelers seem to be willing to acquiesce with that.
Isn't that brutal, by the way?
As of now.
And I hate to clomp on you, but isn't that brutal? I mean, like the essence of need, where you have a situation where it's like, we don't necessarily want anything to do with Russ Wilson in 2025.
Right.
So we're going to give Justin Fields the opportunity that he was vying for a year ago, but then Russ comes in and he's kind of a placeholder guy. But here you go, Justin Fields, and Fields is like, I think I can get like $5-10 more million with the Jets. So I'm going to go to the Jets. So you have a guy that's trying to maintain and reestablish an NFL profile. He spurns your team, and now you're sitting here and you actually have to wait for Aaron Rodgers to go on a safari, to go to Egypt, to go to Joshua Tree, to hang out in Costa Rica for 6 weeks. And you are truly waiting at the mercy of that. And then you got Mason Rudolph hanging out like, I'd like the opportunity too, I suppose. I mean,
didn't you watch me a few years ago? I finished with a plum and almost beat Buffalo in the playoffs.
I was almost competitive in a playoff game. What about me? Can I? So
what about me?
It's just, I mean, even if they consummate that relationship and come in, the idea that it started on the foundation of an innate need of a team and having to wait and bend the knee to Rodgers in that respect. And it's just it's kind of ugly to me for a team like the Rooneys, for a team like what Tomlin's put together there. It's kind of disappointing to see that Rodgers, as we were talking about in relation to the Vikings, are there certain aspects of who he is and what he's about and how he handles himself that might, if you're a franchise wanting to bring him in, could he alter this frame of himself? Well, so far, clearly the answer is no.
Well, the conversation, the centerpiece of the conversation involves a starting quarterback for a team that compensates TJ Watt and inherently has a chance to make the playoffs when you have TJ Watt and other certain players around you and Mike Tomlin leading the way, correct?
Yes.
So the centerpiece conversation with the Steelers would be for a starting quarterback. The New York Giants are kind of in the same realm, even though they made that Jameis Winston move over the weekend. But unlike the Giants, the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have the third overall pick in the draft. So, they're not in Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward territory. Here's the point. What do all these names have in common? Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, Carson Wentz, Desmond Ridder, Trey Lance, Case Keenum, Easton Stick, Josh Johnson, C.J. Beathard, Teddy Bridgewater, Jeff Driscoll, Tyler Huntley, Tim Boyle, Mike White, and Sam Ehlinger. They're all quarterbacks nobody wants to start.
I always love that one.
So he kind of has a corner on the market.
Does indeed.
So they'll be willing to wait. More on that around the corner, by the way, with the Vikings and the intensity and tenacity and grit and wherewithal and wonderment that goes with QB2. But when I was thinking about when I was looking at these transactions and trying to see what kind of a deal Jameis Winston got, things like that, just looking at potential backup quarterbacks for the Minnesota Vikings, I came across a visit that took place, I believe, Friday. It was late last week. And it involves somebody with whom we're very familiar and somebody whose legacy is not ending on his terms.
This is 3rd and 5 from the Green Bay 21. Cousins goes out of the shotgun. Amir Abdullah by his side. Green Bay rushes 4. Fade to the end zone. Diggs! And he caught it! Yes, he did! Touchdown! Vikings! Kirk Cousins with a touchdown to Stefon Diggs from 21 yards, and it's 9-3 Minnesota.
9 to News, a little fast and furious today. From the How to the Wild. Motzko made the mix. Janai Broom joins the show at 11 o'clock with P. Fox. It's fast and furious up in here, aren't we? But it's still soft and warm. It's forever the Quiet Storm. It's forever KFAN. The kids may put it this way. Diggsy's catching a 9 to noon stray.
I always love that one.
Because I read he stopped by New England and left without a deal. Is Stefon Diggs any form of a hot commodity off the ACL? With the Bills' baggage and closer to the end of a career than the beginning. So think about Stefon Diggs' career in totality. Drafted much farther down the draft than he should have been drafted. Took him a little bit to get onto the field. Debuts against the Denver Broncos, puts the likes of Bradley Roby and Aqib Talib on skates in a game that we would lose right at the wire in the Mile Get High City.
TJ Ward.
To a Broncos team that eventually would win the Super Bowl. So from that eye-opening moment to where we are now, is Stefon Diggs any form of a hot commodity in his current state? I think clearly the answer is no. Let's unpack this a little bit. For Diggsy, the Houston run filled his pockets, but gave the team kind of next to nothing due to that injury. I think he was hurt middle of the season, and he had 3 touchdowns last year for D'Amico Ryan's Texans.
Made 8 games, yeah.
Yeah, made 8 games. So the Houston run, again, when you're part of the Minneapolis Miracle and you put up the touchdowns he put up most of his career, the yardage and the respect as being one of the great route runners in the last 20 years of football, there's a certain qualification of legacy that goes with that. I mean, everybody leaves a legacy. Ontario Smith left a legacy and a Whizzinator behind.
I always love that one.
So everybody leaves a legacy one way or another. But this legacy, from a qualification standpoint, really, really took off about 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now, the Houston run, along with the Buffalo run, filled the pockets of Stefon Diggs, but the Buffalo years provided plenty of touchdowns, plenty of sideline arguments, and me first and clandestine tweets. So I think when people analyze or qualify Stefon Diggs' run with the Buffalo Bills, it would be, man, lots of touchdowns. I think he had 11 one year. Might have had 21 over 2. Those sideline arguments, though, and the feel of that me first clandestine tweeting that just constantly took place with Stefon Diggs. I think that would be a qualification with the legacy that would be in play. Now, he arrived there in 2020 because he forced his way out of Minnesota, and Spielman turned him into the Justin Jefferson pick. Speaking of catching strays, covenant collapse for Spielman for turning a malcontent-like situation into Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
That's pretty good work right there.
Not bad.
So he forced his way out after the Minneapolis Miracle, and some quality moments Steph had here with Thielen, Rudy, Dalvin Cook, Cuz Buzz, and so on. That miracle play filled our hearts, and it also filled Steph's pockets. Now, Stefon Diggs will finish his career, and this is what led me to write this. It's just so eye-opening how things can change so quickly for those of the polarizing variety, those of the super talented variety. Like Keenan Allen, he's been around longer than Stefon Diggs, but Keenan Allen's just waiting for the right opportunity. Keenan Allen is football immortality. Diggs has some football immortality to him. That's why you want it to end on your terms. You want things to end when you're in the second part of your career on your terms, and you don't really want to finish your career on a series of one, maybe team-friendly 2-year deals.
Yeah.
Diggs is a mercenary. Now there was an ACL injury last year, but the Buffalo baggage and the forcing his way out of Minnesota, that plays into the conversation too, because it'll play into the conversation between owners, personnel people, and coaches when they contemplate signing Stefon Diggs. So to think somebody who in early 2018 was on the right side of that Minneapolis Miracle, the numbers and the statistical wherewithal, headaches to the side that he put up in Buffalo, and then he's going to give it a crack in Houston as a bridge team so he can get himself his final big ballyhooed whopper of a deal. Now he's rolling up to New England begging to play with Drake May and not even leaving with the deal. Stefon Diggs is going to finish his career on a series of 1-year deals, maybe team-friendly 2-year deals. He and his rep probably are shopping that they're probably shopping this stock, hoping for a 2, but ready to accept the right one.
Yeah.
And then like New England, all right, Mike Vrabel ain't having it with the sideline stuff. Nobody's trying to make Mike Vrabel sound like Bill Belichick reincarnate, but he's from the Belichick tree.
Yeah, he's from that school.
Right. And it's not, with his run in Tennessee and just Mike Vrabel overall, nobody's putting him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame for his coaching acumen or his coaching record or his coaching success or lack thereof. But one thing's certain with Mike Vrabel, he ain't having the sideline stuff and cliche diva wide receiver antics. So when I read Diggs was there, he coaches there, not being privy at all to the conversations, I mean, I would just imagine low key somehow it just kind of slid in there. It's like, Drake would love to have you. We think we got some good things going here, but we ain't having any of that.
Right.
And then somebody left without a deal.
It's crazy too with Diggs because the drama that you're talking about, the Buffalo baggage and how things ended here, it's so much deeper and on our minds as part of the Diggs conversation in Minnesota,
right? Part
of the Diggs conversation in Buffalo, maybe than it would be in other markets,
right?
Although during the backside of his career in Buffalo, the national exposure of the Bills probably brings that Diggs melodrama that took place probably closer to the front plate for many.
Yeah.
But if you look at this, man, 857 catches, 10,000 plus yards right now. I think 70, 80 TDs, somewhere in that area. If he can figure out this ACL and have 2, 3 more productive seasons, you are going to be, 5, 6, 7 years after he retires.
Nice legacy.
You'll be talking about a guy that has 13,000 receiving yards, 1,000 plus catches, maybe close to, let's say, 90 touchdowns in his career. And maybe it's too late to escape that legacy that you're talking about, the Buffalo baggage. It is part of the sad side of this, though, where it's how good is this cat? I mean, how good was he as a number one? He is an unbelievable talent in this league that, for one reason or another, just could not keep his head above water when it came to the mood factor and just, the me. There's certainly an aspect of that. It's so disappointing because the numbers speak to a guy as a generational receiving talent and producer in this league.
But will he be considered that when he's done? Yeah. I like how you put that because the series of 1-year deals I think he's looking at, maybe a team-friendly 2, he has an opportunity to turn some frowns upside down. Because if you believe when Diggs was here that there was like, well, why Thielen get so many looks? Well, we run too much with Dalvin. We want to what? We want to run and play defense? I'm a wide receiver. Then you have the miracle moment. After that, some things clearly changed because he forced his way out of here and ended up in Buffalo in 2020. We ended up getting Justin Jefferson. So that was the serendipity of it for the Minnesota Vikings. But see, Diggsy ain't finishing this thing with a flurry of positivity. And whatever legacy he feels he has established is becoming that of a journeyman receiver. Think about that. Stefon Diggs, journeyman receiver. 9 to noon wishes him well wherever he lands. And honestly, it'd be cool if he went to the Green Bay Packers because then maybe Josh Jacobs would proclaim, we finally have a true number 1 receiver.
I always love that one.
Well, I'd look forward to the LaFleur presser where, now with McCole Hardman, 6 number 1 wide receivers on one team.
We're popping tags right now.
Too many mouths to feed.
Yeah, like Josh knows Diggs had an ACL.
I always love that one.
You're just going to see the name and see, told you, we got him. Got our number 1 receiver. Wausau go crazy. Elk Mountain go crazy. Oh, Diggsy, by the way, 0-2 versus the Minnesota Vikings since leaving the Covenant. Since leaving the great state of Minnesota, Diggsy, 0-2 versus the Minnesota Vikings. And while in those games, he had 22 catches and 222 yards. There are no touchdowns, which in a way is analogous to the legacy and or career of Stefon Diggs. TimberTech.com. Thank you for what's on deck 9 to noon today. Includes Vikes Bites coming up a couple of segments from now. Some QB2 conversation around the corner. Joe Smith, beat writer covering the Wild, is in Dallas. He'll join us 30 minutes from now. Put a proper preview onto Wild and Stars. And Parker Fox, formerly of the Golden Gophers basketball team, somehow has a working cell phone number for Janai Broome, one of the best players in college basketball and the best player for the Auburn Tigers. Janai Broome joins 9 to noon. It's Broome at noon, about 2.5 hours from now. Make that 1.5 hours, about 11 o'clock, about 90 minutes from now. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Good morning. You're listening to the Monday version of 9 to noon.
Oh, good.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, everybody. So when you get asked, what is Odoo, what comes to mind? Well, I'll tell you, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a suite of business management software that some people say is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. But, some people also say that Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable.
Ooh. But then again, you could look at Odoo in terms of how its individual software programs are a lot like building blocks. Whatever your business needs, manufacturing, accounting, HR programs, you can build a custom software suite that's perfect for your company. So what is Odoo? Well, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. Yeah, that's it.
Which means that Odoo is exactly what every business needs. Learn more and sign up now at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Leesa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep in your space with Leesa. Go to Leesa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
Oh, good.
KFAN is my favorite station.
Me too. Soft and warm, the quiet storm, KFAN at 9:35. Vikes Bites around the corner. QB2, you say. Rodgers is going to be a Steeler one of these days. Jameis, a Giant. Daniel Jones, a Colt. Cooper Rush, a Raven. Sounds like a scene from Game of Thrones. Jacoby Brissett, a Card. And Nick Mullins, a Jag. There are others, but for the purpose of the conversation, we thought we'd rattle off those names. The backup quarterback market with for the Minnesota Vikings would be, I guess, one eye on the Cleveland Browns, and then we have our lot in life, and it doesn't seem either of the teams are in a hurry to make a move. Now, Cleveland owns the 2 pick in the draft and could take one there. Giants have the 3 pick in the draft and probably will take one there. So when it comes to quarterback 2, and the reason that we put this in the mix today is yours truly is getting peppered with that question quite frequently from multiple avenues of life. So therefore, this is a serve first covenant. You make the conscious decision to either find 9 to noon or KFAN on the free iHeartRadio app or FM 100.3 KFAN, and that honor is not lost on 9 to noon. We serve you. So therefore, if people are, to a certain extent, obsessively thinking about QB2 for the Minnesota Vikings, we figure we put something together and just kind of talk it out together. because Cleveland and Stefanski, Kevin Kalm, that's a player in this equation. If there's a certain name that you want, and if you don't get that certain name, how frustrated can one be given the circumstances here? And as the frustratometer would go, as we'll get into momentarily, it's, they're just, as I started thinking this thing out, because there just was so much time put into the conversation with Rodgers and the Vikings over the course of the last week and change. This just got kind of shoved off to the wayside. But when it comes to McCarthy and when it comes to QB2 for the Minnesota Vikings, I think there's some interesting things that we can share. Hopefully you enjoy it too. I placed the chances Minnesota drafts a quarterback less than 5. It's the draft, all right, not college free agency, using one of the 4 picks. So that's less than 5%, closer to 0 than it is 5. So I rattled them off earlier. Here are the names that matter most. Take your pick. Who do you like? Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, Carson Wentz, Desmond Ridder, Trey Lance, Case Keenum, Easton Stick, Josh Johnson, C.J. Beathard, Teddy Bridgewater, Jeff Driscoll, Tyler Huntley, Tim Boyle, Mike White, Sam Ehlinger. Oh my God. Now, if any of those guys signed over the last 2 days, apologies from yours truly. Wilson still could join the Giants. All right. The deal they gave to Jameis is, it could be a backup quarterback deal, and they could pay somebody else a little more, and Russell Wilson could join the Giants. Russ playing backup here, I think, is a super long shot. So, like when I put the qualifications together for what goes into QB2 with the Minnesota Vikings, yeah, Russell checks boxes, but I just don't believe that would be the right 2 to join the Vikings with QB1 heading into a second year, but having never played any regular season games. So Wilson, I just have a feeling Russell Wilson eventually will join the New York Giants, but I'm not sure. Carson Wentz has been rumored to Cleveland. Joe Flacco played for the Browns. In a longer shot scenario, and if the money worked the right way, perhaps the Vikings trade with Atlanta for Kirk Cousins. I find that to be a long shot. Now, with this QB2 talker, some qualifications include, but are not limited to, the player not pining to start, the player working well with J.J. McCarthy and the offensive staff. So you got O'Connell, offensive coordinator Wes Phillips, quarterbacks coach Josh McCown. So whomever gets the money for a team that could be very, very good next year, working with the offensive staff and delivering for the one exactly what they expect, that's a big, big key. QB2 needs to process complication quickly and be able to simplify it, not only for the coaches, but for J.J. McCarthy. Processing complication quickly and simplifying it. Arm strength is in there, and somebody who can play in a pinch. Now, with all that laid out, 9 to noon started on this weeks ago. I like Flacco first. All right. I like Joe Flacco. He checks all of those proverbial boxes for yours truly, but it's just a heartfelt vibe that I've had since Mullins went to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That I think he'd be the right guy. I got Carson Wentz second. And I guess I had forgotten Carson Wentz was just where he is in his career. But Carson checks most of those boxes. The thing with Carson is he's younger than Flacco, moves better than Flacco, doesn't quite have the arm strength the 40-year-old Flacco has, and like Joe, he's very smart. But with Joe, we're talking about a Super Bowl MVP. Now, that's many moons ago, but even to get to that spot or carry the Ravens as long as he did or bounce around the way he has, you have to be able to process complication quickly and know how to simplify it so that you can do the very best you can in a weird spot as a 2 quarterback filling in because somebody got hurt, most likely during a game. So Joe checks all of those right boxes for yours truly. Now, my man turned 40 years of age 2 months ago. Arm strength still is high end, and he gets rid of it quickly. That's what I like about Joe. Old people don't like to take sacks. Joe will get rid of the ball quickly.
He eats dinner early.
Yeah.
Make sure he gets a full night's sleep.
Yeah. I mean, on Fridays, you don't have to worry about your quarterback being out till 4 a.m. at the club. With Flacco, he and his family will coordinate matching pajamas.
I always love that one.
And they'll take pictures and put them on Instagram.
He's trying to put new batteries in the karaoke machine that he got the kids for Christmas.
Yeah, that's QB2. That's what you want. Somebody who takes complication, processes it, and simplifies it for JJ McCarthy. All right, 3-2. What about Teddy? Big brother on the block. Deep ball ain't great. Deep ball really never was great. Was out last year till the very end. And then he's a lion.
Yeah.
For like 3 weeks and the whole thing's over.
He was coaching high school football for most of 2024.
Big brother on the block, though. What do we think about Teddy?
Yeah, well, first of all, lockstep with Flacco. Carson Wentz, I'm glad you brought him up because, despite the tough, MVP-like rookie season before the injury, 2017, and then he just kind of disappears. But he doesn't disappear. He's been in the league now for a decade almost, I believe. So I'm in with those two. And as much as I love Teddy, and we rooted for Teddy, and there was a projection for what Teddy could be in 2016, late August, changed all of that. I'm out on Teddy. And best of luck to Teddy. I hope that he three-peats down at Northwestern,
Can you phrase it differently?
Whichever high school. I at this point, I would not be. I think there are better options than Teddy at the backup spot.
Yeah.
One name. What about Tannehill? There's been some Tannehill steam recently as well.
Yeah,
So
I didn't put Tanny on the list.
So I kind of like the three-piece, that triumvirate right there, that three-pack of Flacco, Wentz, and Tannehill. And then... Yeah, so I actually said this to you during the break. There's part of me, I'm like, I wonder if they already might have a deal, but it's like Flacco,
a handshake.
Yeah, take your kids to SeaWorld, drive to Yosemite, do a camping trip, the whole thing, and we'll talk about this in July. And so whether they're playing the comp pick game or whatnot, maybe Tannehill, it's the steam that I've heard there pretty consistently is. Going to take one hell of a deal to get him and his family out of Nashville. And maybe that's accurate. Maybe that's true. I was reading an article. He's made like $200+ million in his career. So
before taxes.
That's a fair point. But money's not a factor. So ultimately, does he still want to start? Is he interested in this grooming process of sorts? I don't know. But one of those three, and I love Wentz, Bismarck go crazy. The idea of bringing them in, maybe a handshake has already been made. No, I adore Teddy, and it was cool. I mean, it was cool as a guy that was kind of rooting for the Lions to lose that game against the Commanders.
Yeah.
To see Teddy Bridgewater in a playoff game, weeks removed from helping his high school team win a state title, to seeing him taking snaps in a playoff game. But that nostalgia only takes me so far. It doesn't take me to the brink of adding him to the purple.
But if the assumption is there's a handshake with somebody, that after OTAs or minicamp or whatever, they will come here.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time that there was a handshake like that in the history of the NFL. But you got to be careful, because now this is not confirmed, but I'm going to ride my heart. The last time you may have had a handshake with a guy to be QB2, he ended up in Indianapolis, undoubtedly still pissed off at us because of this. And here comes Daniel Jones, 12 of 22 for 111 yards. Vikes lead 21-6. Jones. Oh, he threw it to Van Ginkel. Touchdown! That's the fourth touchdown in Andrew Van Ginkel's career. And he read Daniel Jones like a book, and that book had a happy ending. 27-6, Minnesota. So as we pause, and I'll land the plane on this a little later. Here's why this matters. Because McCarthy already has been hurt. The recovery has been amazingly long, and when he got hurt, nobody seems to know how and or when. Just Just absorb that.
Yeah.
This is why this is the timeliness of this, the timing of it, maybe a little more important than yours truly is given creed to, because QB1's already been hurt. The recovery was just never ending. And I mean, unless somebody knows and they haven't shared, nobody knows how he got hurt or when he got hurt or how long he played while being hurt. All of that's weird. Vikes Bites.
Hey, everybody. So when you get asked, what is Odoo, what comes to mind? Well, I'll tell you, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a suite of business management software that some people say is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. But, some people also say that Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable.
Ooh. But then again, you could look at Odoo in terms of how its individual software programs are a lot like building blocks. Whatever your business needs, manufacturing, accounting, HR programs, you can build a custom software suite that's perfect for your company. So what is Odoo? Well, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. Yeah, that's it.
Which means that Odoo is exactly what every business needs. Learn more and sign up now at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Lisa. Go to lisa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code IHEART. That's LEESA.com. Promo code IHEART for an extra $50 off.
Our neck.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for
Vikes Bites.
And Vikes Bites is always brought to you by Matt and everybody associated with Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Clearwater, Minnesota's finest. You can shop online. Box of meat shows up at your doorstep. Coburn's, Kowalski's, Co-ops. They're all over the place. Nutrient-dense, regenerative agriculture. Go to their website because I can't articulate how they make this stuff, but it's delicious, it's wonderful, and it's local. To the Minnesota Vikings, they're trying to make something happen, potentially a Super Bowl win, but for now, they're trying to build this roster into 2025. Top 30 visits. That used to be kind of the terminology associated with potential draft picks, prospects, if you will, coming into Minneapolis, having a little wine and dine, getting to know everybody, meeting with the GM, etc. I'm just curious if this group with Kwesi and with Kevin O'Connell, how differently they might handle it than in years past with Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer. I keep seeing, and I'm excited to have Gessling on tomorrow, PA. I think it was him. He mentioned it on one of the Strib podcasts. Maybe it was in the newsletter or all of the above. That Oregon standout defensive player Derek Harmon, beef eater on the D line, that he might actually be quote unquote like a priority for the Vikings potentially at 24. And so that's a guy maybe you bring in and you bring him to Capitol Grill or you bring him out in and you get to know Derek Harmon. Have you felt over, and now we're into year 4 of this regime, PA, kind of the idea that there are XYZ things. I mean, there's a process that most of these guys might, not deviate too far from the path, but they do deviate. That Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell handle this time of year a little bit differently than maybe if we remember Tricky Rick and Mr. Zimmer.
The answer is yes, but to specify like what's handled differently than previous regime or regimes. And how impactful it is to, like, when they actually play the games, I can't do that.
Okay.
But I do know, if you believe specifically with O'Connell, and I would imagine with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, but I just haven't seen it enough to have examples, the management of man post-pandemic and this era of 20-year-olds. I mean, eras change. Generations change. The fan has learned. And the way, these kids don't want to be yelled at. I said it 5 years ago. It's like if you think Frank Kush, Bill Parcells, or Woody Hayes and approaches thereof are the right way to handle these kids post-pandemic, I think you're wrong. So therefore, O'Connell, Adolfo-Mensah, and that group, they handle man quite well. Now, I don't host the top 30 the way I used to, but I do know I'll generally learn some of the people who are there, and the Vikings draft players who come to the top 30. So whatever steam gets out on that, we'll see. We'll see who ends up venturing to Eagan, Minnesota. I think the top 30's at Eagan these days. I don't think they do it at country clubs like they used to at like Bear Path or Olympic Hills, places like that. But maybe they do.
Vikes Bites! Thank you, Thousand Hills. I went a different route than you did. I was on SpotRack/SpoTrack, and I was looking at free agents, but I wasn't looking at QBs and then stumbling upon Stefon Diggs, which very much is intriguing as the spring gets closer and closer to us.
Yeah.
But I was looking at Vikings remaining free agents from a year ago. Stephon Gilmore, Shaq Griffin, Dalton Reisner, Jonathan Bullard, Brandon Powell, Quesenberry, Feeney, Jihad Ward, Kama Grugier-Hill, Fabian Moreau, Cam Akers. We know the names. We're familiar with them. Anybody that you're potentially interested or anyone that has popped in your head like, hey, it'd be cool if that guy's back. For instance, for me, I think Jonathan Bullard, very good against the run. We've talked to, the corner spot, gun for hire veteran to step into a spot here. I anticipate that one will be added at some point. Maybe it's in the draft. Yep. You don't need to talk about veterans. But so we've handled that at length, certainly. But, I look at like a Jonathan Bullard. I do look at a Quesenberry as potentially being somebody that remains in the mix, at least from a competitive standpoint, to provide some depth on the offensive line. Those sorts of things. Cam Akers, that's usually an October-November conversation. Right. It appears with him. We'll just add him mid-season at some point. Hopefully we don't need to this year. But anybody pop in your head like, man, Bullard would be cool to have, 20% of the reps just to really bolster up that run defense. Maybe that's what, a Javon Hargrave might be lacking on the run side. Maybe we get just a beef eater that's in there to plug up space. Anybody pop in your head that you're thinking it'd be cool if he was back?
Bullard, you nailed it. That's pretty much the only one for me.
Same for me, yeah.
Well, Brandon Powell serves a role, for this team, and with all due respect, like the punt return prowess or punt return pop that we had here with B. Powell during his run, it wasn't great.
Not memorable.
Yeah, it wasn't memorable. We had a fumble at Philadelphia. We might have had a 30-yard return in there, but now you got Rondale Moore. All right, Rondale can return punts, and Rondale is fast. So there's no guarantee Rondale makes the team, but nevertheless, you got that. You got Jimmy Horn Jr. and the old National Football League draft, and players like that can be found. I like that Bullard angle because if you look at the names of the players that make up the defensive linemen, that would be tackles and or ends.
Yeah.
They still have a little bit of work to do, in my estimation, from an end standpoint.
Can Jimmy Horn put on a couple of pounds and play on the D-line?
Run between center's legs. They'll never see him coming as he mugs A gaps. But Bullard, he's very good against the run, and he's been worth every penny they've given him the time he's been here. So that's a very good name. Another very good name would be that of, say, Matt Boldy. And they're going to need all the good names and all the stars to shine this week because the Wild not only has an arduous schedule in front of it, we only have 12 games to play. So let's go to Dallas around the corner and hook up with Hey Joe. What you going to do with that computer in your hand? Joe Smith, who covers the Wild for The Athletic, he'll put a proper preview on Wild and Stars from the Big D next on KFAN.
Some people say that Odoo business management software is like fertilizer, the way it promotes growth and all. But other people say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. And there's some people who would even say Odoo's individual software programs come together to build the perfect suite like building blocks. Well, Odoo is all of these things. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. So sign up now at odoo.com, ODOO.com.
Struggling to get out of bed? It might be time for an upgrade. Lisa makes exceptionally comfortable mattresses designed for every body and budget. But what truly sets them apart is their commitment to giving back. Since 2015, they've donated over 41,000 mattresses nationwide. Elevate your sleep and your space with Leesa. Go to leesa.com for 20% off their award-winning mattresses, plus an extra $50 off with promo code iHeart. That's LEESA.com. Promo code iHeart for an extra $50 off.